Hi there. Thanks for joining us today on your Friday afternoon. We're going to be talking about how cannabis operators can maximize ROI with technology. My name is Rain Carpenter, and I'm on the marketing team here at SilverLeaf. Everyone's going to be muted during this session, but jot down any questions you have because we'll save some time for Q&A at the end. The session will be recorded and sent to you later today. With that, I'm going to hand it over to our cannabis experts, Sara Silver and Jennifer Phoenix.
Thank you, Rain, and thanks everyone. Hi, and thank you for joining our session on maximizing profitability with technology in your cannabis business. Today, we're going to tell you a little bit about our company, Velosio, and our software solution, ERP solution, SilverLeaf, and how SilverLeaf can ultimately be used to increase efficiency and profits for your business. As Rain mentioned, I'm Sara Silver. I'm the Industry Director for Horticulture and Cannabis at Velosio, and I'm here with Jennifer Phoenix, who is our Practice Director, which means she manages all of the cannabis project implementations at Velosio. And with that, let's talk about what ERP is before we get into SilverLeaf specifically. So Jen, why don't you take it away?
Sure thing. So what is ERP? So ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning, which allows you to manage and automate your core business activities. So, we think oftentimes the way we explain is your ERP can replace QuickBooks and spreadsheets. We oftentimes see a lot of that, especially in the cannabis space for a new and emerging, I kept wanting to say emergence, company.
No emergency.
Yeah, right. And ERP, it provides structure and boundaries that minimize the risk of human error and loss of important data. It can help you integrate your business processes and functions into a single comprehensive solution. Gives you real-time visibility into your business. That's one of the important key things that we want to talk about today. And we really like to consider this your single source of truth.
So you mean it's not a bunch of spreadsheets that are then entered into something else and then...
Right. We use this as our hub. Now we'll talk a little bit later about how we might be able to use this hub to then disseminate information outward. So one of the really important things that we wanted to talk is how you can maintain data integrity with SilverLeaf CBC. But we want to talk a little bit more about what SilverLeaf CBC is. This is a solution that is built on Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. So that's the foundation for all of this. And as you can see, we cover a lot of different areas. We have multi-entity support, which is very common in the cannabis industry as far as a need, giving us lots of visibility into key financial data. We have real inventory visibility, stream management. We can recommend replenishments and plan for that. We have label and tag printing, bartender printing. We have production management and processing within our solution. We can do sales and delivery tracking, traceability, chain of custody tracking. We have an integration to LeafLink if you should need that. Cultivation, we can predict yield by strain, tracking plants through the growing process, all the way through to harvest and then onward. And then regulatory compliance is big in this industry. So we have an integration to Metric. We allow for destruction tracking, license management, lab result tracking, all of that good stuff. So this is all tied together, as you can see, in one central place.
So no more duplicate data entry is
that's the idea.
Yeah. So that showed you a high-level view of SilverLeaf. And now we want to dig into some of the details and show you how this system can increase your operational efficiency and drive profits, which is why you joined us today. So the first thing I want to talk about is planning and how your planning process would work with an ERP solution. This screen is an example of the demand forecast, which is one of the components of our planning tool. In this forecast, I've entered my forecast by month. You could enter it by week, by quarter, if you prefer, and you could enter it by strain if you're so inclined. I have just the totals right here, but you could do it by strain. So once a user puts in what they think their sales forecast is going to be, then the planning tool will guide them through purchasing replenishments for production, the raw materials needed for base to meet this finished goods demand. It will also help you fill up your mins and maxes so that you don't have stock outs on especially items that take a long time to receive from your vendors. This tool, in the background ERP, you can set what those replenishment points are. So you might have some products that take 3 months, so you want to keep a 3-month supply on hand, and this will guide you through all of that planning. So next, let's talk about another important part of profitability in your organization is having an efficient sales team. And let's face it, knowledge is power to a salesperson. The more information you can put at their fingertips, the greater your customer success will be. The quicker they'll be able to close sales without involving everyone in the company to find out what your inventory availability is. With accurate inventory information, your salespeople can provide customers with information about product availability, and they can manage expectations. So let me show you a little example about that. On this slide, you'll see that our user has started a sales order for vape cartridges on that bottom line. And they're not sure what strain or flavor to offer the customer because they don't know what their inventory available is right now. So the user will click on a button on this page that goes to the variant quantity matrix, and that page will show them what options they have available. So here you can see on this page, we've got all the different strains of this product and what the current projected available balance is. We see both, we can see on hand what we physically have in the warehouse, but we might have other quantities on sales order for other customers. So projected available balance is telling us what we really have available to sell. So the user can fill in these quantities and hit OK. And then on the next slide, we can see that it automatically populated the sales order with all the things that we selected. So we can order multiple quantities of different strains all at once based on availability. And in this example, you'll see it added an excise tax line for every line, because in my sample data, I have excise tax turned on if that's appropriate. So this is just one way to enter an order. We will discuss integrations in a few more minutes, and a big spoiler alert is we do have a LeafLink integration that Jennifer's going to talk about that can pull orders in, or we could pull orders in from your e-commerce platform. But ultimately, this is what's getting populated. So this is kind of the core. You can have many channels of how your orders come into the system. So moving on, let's talk about production tracking, and that's another big component of profitability and operational efficiencies. SilverLeaf is a full manufacturing system, and in our system, you can set up work centers and identify the various costs to run each work center. You can then drill into the work center to see what is scheduled to be produced in the work center. So in the top section, I have my different work centers, and I can see what their load is, and then I can drill in to see what's going on in each one. So this gives your team their assignments for work in their specific area. It helps us schedule production and understand what our capacity needs to be, if we need to add another shift, et cetera, to get the work done. So the next slide is, this one is really one of my favorite features. Anyone who has a demo has to listen to me get all excited about this part when we demo our software real time. And this is really showing how production comes all together with item tracing. In this example, I've entered a metric tag for a product that we have a complaint on. And you can see that this tag ending in 418 came off of the tag ending in 393, where we produced 40 packs. And if you work your way down, you can see that we basically sold packs of gummies that came off bulk packs that we had produced, that came from bulk production run of gummies themselves. And so we can search all the way back to the gummies, the bulk gummies that went into these, and the raw materials that went into those gummies, down to the oil, the distillate, the raw distillate, crude oil, all the way back to the ultimately the trim that went into the oil that went into these gummies that went to this customer. Then, to make it even more exciting, we can trace opposites. So let's say we determined there was a problem with our bulk distillate, our formulated distillate. We could then click on the formulated distillate and choose trace opposite and see any other products that distillate went into. So we get this great ability to trace all the way through. If you ever had a recall situation, or you needed to track where the product went, you can do that all with this item tracing. And from that tracing line, I can drill in to see the lab results, which I'm going to talk about in a few more minutes. So we'll circle back on lab results in a little bit. but I traced back to my product, and I guess in this example, I'm looking at the bulk trim, and I drilled into it, and on the right, you can see the lab results that went with that. So that kind of gives you an idea of how our software can really help you improve your efficiency by having a single source of truth, as Jennifer mentioned, a single point of data entry that flows through the entire system. So with that, Jen, take it away.
Sure. So we've mentioned this a few times. Oh, I just went blurry. There, I'm back. So real-time information is really critical to being able to run a business, to and know where you're at any point in time to ensure that profitability. Some of the things that we have with the solution with Business Central and SilverLeaf is we have instant visibility to some key metrics. So here's an example of our cultivation dashboard. This provides, for example, here you can see the expected yield by strain by month based on our current production schedule. We can see the grams here of critical mass, northern lights, and purple haze expected to harvest in April. Now we know this data looks a little bit funky because it's our demo data, so we kind of we have some old dates on here and whatnot as far as when you're looking at this example. And we can also see the number of plants that we have per growth phase per strain. So we have a lot, just logging into the system, this is the first thing that we see if we're in a cultivation role. We also have other roles. So I might be an accountant, which, is not really untrue from my past experience. And so I know a lot about this kind of stuff. What are my open sales, my open purchases? I can track certain accounts and kind of see what my cash position is just right at a glance. We can see how we're doing financially in a particular period. Again, just right when I log into that system, I have that instant visibility. So this role center is really customizable to what's most important to you in your role within the organization. Another thing that we really care a lot about, and this is where I think we really shine a lot of times with our solution, is real-time inventory availability, visibility. Here I'm looking at an item card for bulk trim, and I can drill into any of these numbers whenever we see this little blue line here. So I can see the quantity that we have on hand, the available quantity kind of overall, as well as, we're going to talk more about QC lab results, our QC available inventory, what's actually past testing and is available for us to do something with it, whether it's to consume it or to sell it. And we can drill in to see all of our item ledger entries. And again, we can see those test entries for each one of these that make up these numbers. So we really have true visibility all the way down. Oops, I didn't mean to keep going. I wanted to talk about something. I thought I had a slide in here, but we can even see like profitability by each single item ledger entry. So I apologize, I'm missing that screen.
Yeah. I guess so they'll have to get a demo to see that.
It's one of my favorite features too, gosh darn it. All right, so data integration, we've talked a little bit about this. If we have BC as a central source of truth, then we can use that to help integrate or talk to all of these other systems. So metric being key for the cannabis industry is something that we integrate with quite often. Well, no, we always do, is what I should say. LeafLink, when we have folks using that. Power BI, we start talking about data analytics, and that's just one example of data that we can extract and present in ways that help us manage the business. We can connect and automatically import lab tests. So these are, and the and more is really infinite as far as anything that has an API that we can connect with. So we really allow this to be the single source of truth, but then we can extend it out to make it even more robust to help manage business. Oh yeah, and bartender, that's another one I wanted to mention. Bartender, for label printing, a lot of our customers were already using it, so we're like, you know what, we should integrate with it. and now you can push a button in Business Central and print a label on Bartender. No more data imports, no more file uploads or manual data updates. Makes it nice.
Awesome. All right, let's talk. We mentioned this several times about using our quality control module to test your lab results. So let's move on to that and get in here. So this is an example. Jennifer mentioned the different role centers. We looked at the cultivation role center. We looked at the accountant or CFO controller type of role center. And this one is the QC, what we call the QC admin role center. And I love this one because it's like these green boxes are showing the workflow of your team, what they're going to do each day. It identifies what samples need to be pulled, what results you're waiting for what results you're waiting for, and what's passed or failed. So you get all this visibility. You can click on these green boxes to drill into them. And below you'll see an example of what we call a QC group. And this is a set of tests that you control that you're going to be tracking results on. Some of our users track many results for every item. Others track just a few, and it's totally your choice. You set up what you want your tests to be by item group or item type. You apply the QC group to the different items, and you control the test results, the passing and failing parameters, I should say, for each item. Then these results, they can be printed on your labels with that bartender integration. As I showed you before when we did that tracing, every item ledger entry, actually that's on the next screen, Jen, if you could jump one more screen. Every item ledger entry on the bottom there shows you the test results. So what we call the item ledger, it's like your checkbook register. If you still keep a manual checkbook and you write down every check and every deposit, that's what the item ledger is. It's all the ins and outs of all your inventory, and it shows you the strain and the metric tag. And you'll see on the right, as I click on different lines, the bottom, it would show me the different lab results. And at the top, you'll see that for my 1 gram flour, packaged flour, I see my quantity on hand of 1,600 grams, but only 601 grams are available, meaning they've passed QC. So I've got 1,000 grams sitting out there waiting for lab results on, or they've failed and they're in quarantine. So you get great control. The system's not going to let you ship or consume any batch that has not passed QC. So when I say consume, I mean use in a production run. So we get that visibility all with the QC module. And then moving on this last screen, this is kind of a fun feature that I don't know if we teach enough of our users about, but I think this is really cool. In this feature, I can filter by QC result. So maybe I'm going to go do an extraction for a premium brand, and I want to find a batch of raw material with certain amount of THC as a baseline. Or in my example, just because I didn't have a lot of batches in there, I chose a batch where the total THC was less than 20 if you look in that bottom line at the top little image there. But you can put in what your filter criteria are for your batch, and it will show you all the batches that meet that criteria, so you could drive your users to pick those batches to pull the components that you want to use for a production run.
You know, another great example of this I've often seen is sometimes, we have certain customers who are looking for a product that, say, has a particular THC percentage, right? And so they can go in and filter for that, or maybe they want a higher quantity of CBD. So you're able to kind of do that and then see what available inventory you have that meets that criteria.
Yeah.
It is a very cool feature and underutilized. I agree with you.
Yeah, it's a fun little feature. And I don't show a screen here of it, but when you can key in your lab results when you get lab reports back, which isn't a very popular task. We can bring in these results from Metric. We can import them from a spreadsheet. We can use an API from your lab. So there's all kinds of ways we can pull in this QC data. And a lot of our customers also use the QC module. They of course have their third-party lab test results, but they also do internal testing, and you can track the results from that as well. So you could have 2 QC groups on one item, one for your external lab results and one for the internal testing you do. And everything would have to pass for it to move forward. So it's a great little module that really provides great insight into your product and gives you the control you need for your compliance.
Yeah, the one thing too is when we're sending out those lab samples, we are tracing that just like we do everything. So whatever small quantities, we're making sure we're keeping you compliant as we send those out to the lab.
Yeah, and showing the consumption of that inventory, so you don't have that inventory available anymore, so it will reduce your available quantities. And since we have a minute here, one of the features you mentioned, Jen, I'm going off road, so be ready.
We're ahead of schedule today. I was looking at this, I was like, oh my gosh.
We're two fast talking ladies. But we talk about on that slide where you showed all the features of SilverLeaf, we talked about our chain of custody module. And what made me think of this is when you send your results to a lab, we can track that product as it moves to the lab. But similarly, we have a chain of custody module, which will track the delivery of your product to the customer. There's a signature sign off. that's when our metric integration happens, or you can print a manifest if you're in my home state of Arizona, where there isn't a metric requirement. And that module provides, visibility of where the product's going, and it's another way we can show control. So I thought I'd throw that in there. Do you have anything to add about delivery tracking there?
Well, yeah, I think one of the things that I think is really critical is that we check against valid licenses. There have to be valid licenses as we're moving that product, right? So we can't just send it out into the ether and into some place. What some metric requires that, we require that. We have a lot of those double checks to make sure that we're keeping everybody on with compliance. And what this really boils down to, kind of theme of what we're talking about today being profitability, you're not losing inventory. You have visibility to everything. So, in a spreadsheet, it can be really easy to just fat finger something and suddenly override a quantity, and you now have to explain that to somebody, and you have no audit trail for that. And that's just not a challenge in here, because we have to, we track everything through. So you see exactly how you got to that number.
Well, and in this day and age where, costs are increasing so much and there's all these supply chain issues, the last thing you need is to realize, wait, we don't have enough empty cartridges to fill our demand. And so all of a sudden you're air freighting, or you're, fire drills left and right. Everyone hates a fire drill. And so with this, I think the key, our real premise on how our software helps increase your profits is it's really giving you visibility into the reality of your organization. And it doesn't take, we use the term in a lot of our blogs, we use the term daily acts of heroism. When you've got, all these spreadsheets, some with availability, other spreadsheets with costs, and it's all feeding something else. It's so hard to keep track of what got updated, what didn't get updated, what the reality is. And you find out maybe 2 days later, the reality, and all of a sudden it's too late. So I think that's really been our premise on how our software can really help with profits. So do you have any other favorite features to talk about, Jen, before we go to the Q&A?
Well, there are probably many, but we make sure we have a chance to get to those questions, and then that'll probably trigger my brain to talk about something else.
Awesome. Didn't mean to put you on the spot. I love putting you on the spot. Jane, what's going on out there?
Someone asked, do you think cannabis operators should implement a solution like SilverLeaf early on, or when they're more established?
Oh my gosh, this is a great question. So many of our customers or prospects come to us when they're just starting up their business. They just got their license, or they're waiting for their license and they're building out. Jen, why don't you talk about this, because it's really an implementation question. Of course, I would say, yes, we want you right away.
Yeah. Obviously, it's a lot. I think there's certainly a leg up if you get a system like this in place right away, because then it can scale with you. And you don't have to worry about when you're implementing a new solution to now, okay, now we have to migrate all this data from here to there. That said, if you're already marching down the road and you're doing something and it isn't scalable, like we talked about, our common scenario of QuickBooks and Google Sheets or spreadsheets, that doesn't mean that we can't get you over here. We are very good at doing this and kind of moving you into the system or another legacy system. So really the answer to the question is yes, at any time. I think the earlier the better. Then we don't have to retrain users. So, thinking about these things early on in the business, especially if you have big growth plans, I think is certainly helpful. And it really helps to minimize probably distractions too. We have a lot of people in the cannabis industry doing a lot of different things. The sooner we can get this in place, the smoother everything's kind of running. But
yeah, and our base business central application is really a core accounting system in the center of it all. So you could, in my dream world, like an organization would start with AP and GL, because they're only spending money at that time, and they're if they have to still start doing reporting and get their best practices in place on the back office side, and then they're maybe building out their grow, and we can start implementing the cultivation piece and really grow with it. It's also a little less it might be more expensive than going to QuickBooks, but it's a little less strain on the organization to ramp up with it as opposed to doing the big deal.
Yeah, and in the long term, it definitely costs less to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, last one. Is there technical support long term?
Oh.
We're ready to be partners for life with you, in all honesty, right? So we certainly have that level of support. You know, here at Velosio, we have a SilverLeaf team that really is dedicated to getting our customers up and running and providing that long-term consistent support. We have other folks in the organization that get involved as well. But yeah, we're here for you.
Yeah, that's great. And I think, you know, our team, our SilverLeaf team that Jennifer mentioned is focused on cannabis implementations. And then as we transition you to long-term support, you're, you know, getting people who understand your business and your industry as well. So we also see in a lot of cannabis companies, there's follow-on projects as they move to other states. We work with multi-state operators and they go into other areas. So the system can grow with you as you grow. So anything else, Rain, or is that, did we do it? We're awfully fast today.
Well, thank you both for presenting, and thank you to everyone else for joining us. I will get the recording sent out and the on-demand posted to our YouTube page, and we will reach out with invites to our future webinars. But thank you again, and have a good weekend.
Yeah. Bye-bye.